The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions of WBGR Network. Any questions or concerns about what is said should be directed to the show host, whose information will be provided upon request.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your boy Shane Hector from the No BS, No Holds Barred Sports Talk Show on WBGR Sports Network. Look, ladies and gentlemen, this morning it's going to be very interesting, very wild, and on top of that, it's going to be a special edition of the No BS show because we're going to be talking about all of the Kryptonite teams for the NFL. So each team, I'm going to break them down based on record, of course, and how many wins and losses that these teams have at these teams. So it's going to be very, very interesting and fun. And I want people to understand something, like the way I did this, right? I want people to understand how I did this. I did this because this is something that's never been done before, because obviously nobody wants to talk about the teams that, a particular team keeps losing to. And the reason why I'm going to tie this all together is because in light of the fact that this is Wild Card Weekend, right? This is Wild Card Weekend. So we're going to be looking into the fact that, historically, why these teams keep losing to the same teams over and over again, historically. So, jumping into it. So, I want you to look at the phone number above. So, it's going to be 301-429-9247 if somebody... So I want people to know, obviously, I'm your host, Shane Jamal Hector. So please go to so I want you to call in at 301-429-9247. And then drop a comment, share the show. Please let a brother know what you guys are thinking. So, let's go to it. Every team has a team that is his nemesis. Who is your team's kryptonite? Okay, I want people to understand that there are just certain teams that for some strange reason your team just can't beat them. I don't know why. I don't really argue with that. I just look at it as it's just one of those situations you got to say to yourself, what does my team need to do in order to win? Now, if you guys already got your coffee ready and all that good stuff, I want people to understand that it's going to be a very real and interesting morning. Okay, so let's jump right into it. Let's talk about the first team, the very first team. We're going to start with going to look at the AFC and the NFC. We're going to look at both. Okay, let's start with the AFC. Okay, first, like I said, share. We're going to start with the AFC East. Now, the AFC East was quite interesting, by the way. So, let's go to the first one. Obviously, the New England Patriots, right? Now, everybody's going to always ask me, why is it that I got Denver and the Miami Dolphins as the Kryptonite teams? Well, this is what people don't fail to realize, because this is the funniest thing. So, obviously, the Patriots lost last week, right? They lost last week to the Miami Dolphins in the final game of the season, right? But see, what people don't realize about the New England Patriots, they tend to lose to the Dolphins quite more often than not. The more than people realize. I've actually seen the Patriots go 13-3, and at least one of those 3 losses came from Miami. It happens, okay? And that was the same thing last year. Yes, the Patriots smacked them the first time, but then the second time they saw them, what ended up happening? The Miami Miracle happened. See, when people try to say, well, the Patriots shouldn't have lost to the Dolphins, you're the New England Patriots. What does that say about your team? I mean, that's just me being honest. Like, that, what does that say about your team? You can't sit here and say that, that just because they're the Patriots and they just happen to get at least a couple of 10-win seasons, that all of a sudden, and that's a team that they're supposed to beat. Now, I want people to understand something, okay? The Patriots are 51-55 all time against the Miami Dolphins, and for the Denver Broncos, they're 22-26 all time against the Denver Broncos, and they're 1-4 against Denver in the playoffs. Okay, I want people to understand that. And here's the problem with the Patriots being 1-4 against Denver in the playoffs. That means that they can't beat them when it counts. Okay, there's only one time that they beat them, and that was the year they went to the Super Bowl. Okay, that's just what it is. So it's unfortunate, but that's just what it is. These are the two Kryptonite teams that for some strange reason New England just can't beat. It is what it is. And oddly enough, even though New England's got 6 rings, okay, and the Dolphins have 2. I want people to understand that. Okay, and Denver and Denver has 3. Okay, all 3 of these teams right here are Super Bowl winning teams. So that's neither here nor there. But like I said, this is the Kryptonite teams for New England. Let's move on to the next team. So the next team is the Miami Dolphins. Now this is what's going to sound crazy. It is the darn New York Jets. The Jets, Jets. Now, the Jets are 52-55 over Miami. And the Texans, well, for some strange reason, when they see Miami, the Texans usually beat them. Right now, Miami is 1-8 all time against the Houston Texans. They just can't seem to shake them. They just can't seem to beat them. And the reason why I chose the Texans as their kryptonite team is because of the fact that they have the lowest winning percentage versus any team in the history of the NFL. The lowest winning percentage. It's like 0.167. Winning percentage against this team. They just got awful when it comes to the Houston Texans. So they can't beat them. It is what it is. There's nothing anybody can do about it. The Miami Dolphins obviously got 2 rings. The Jets got 1. The Texans are still looking for their first ring. It is what it is. So that's their kryptonite teams, okay? So I want people to understand that. So this is the AFC East. I want people to understand these are the 2 teams that if you're a Dolphins fan, I'm sorry to tell you this, you're probably not going to beat the Texans or you're probably not going to beat the Jets because it seems like no matter what you do, you can't beat them. You know, I don't. Now, these facts, if you're wondering where they come from, these come from Pro Reference, is a ProFootballReference.com. So I want everybody to go to that. You can look at those stats and things like that. So I want people to understand that. Now, let's move forward. Next team in the AFC East. The New York Jets. Well, it's very obvious that the Patriots are their kryptonite team. That's very obvious because you saw what happened this year. They clearly got swept by New England. So, you know, there's that. I mean, it's just what it is. I mean, Sam Darnold said it himself. He saw a ghost when he saw the New England Patriots, and it's kind of sad, but you know, it is what it is. You know, however. The Patriots are 53. Jets are 53-65 underneath the Patriots. So they lose quite often to New England, and they're 1-2 in the playoffs against the New England Patriots. And obviously, when they saw the Patriots in the playoffs, the one time that they did beat them, that was when Rex Ryan was head coach, and that was when they had Bon Scott as middle linebacker. So that was the only playoff win that the Jets ever had over New England. Other than that, They tend to lose in New England all the time. Now, the reason why I chose Pittsburgh is because out of all these teams that they played, they have a higher winning percentages when it comes to other teams. But when it comes to Pittsburgh, they literally only win 1/3 of the time. They are 6-18 versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, 0-2 in the playoffs. They never beat them in the playoffs. Not to mention, the Jets are 6-18 against Pittsburgh. So for some odd reason, when they see Pittsburgh, they tend to lose. It is what it is. I don't make up these stats, ladies and gentlemen. It's just what it is. These are the facts. So, if you're a Jets fan, sorry to tell you this, but these 2 teams don't seem like you're going to be beating them anytime soon. Especially since Big Ben's coming back next year. Tom Brady, well, we don't know his status yet, but if he ends up coming back to New England next year, then that's going to be interesting within itself, because then the problem is who's going to be able to stop him. It is what it is. Moving forward, next AFC East team, the Buffalo Bills. Now these two. Now I know people are gonna ask me how come it's New England and the Miami Dolphins. Well, here's the reason why. Because all time Patriots are 43. They cannot beat New England 43-75 and 47-60 versus the Miami Dolphins. So the Bills, for some strange reason, even back in their Super Bowl days, the days when they kept making it to the Super Bowl and losing, they just can't beat New England. They can't beat the Patriots. The Patriots go 2-14, and those 2 wins will come from the Buffalo Bills, which is sad. But that's neither here nor there. So I want people to understand the seriousness of that. The Dolphins, 47-60, same thing. Can't beat them. Now these teams might not see each other in the playoffs. Might not. But if they do, I'm not expecting the Bills to win this. So it is what it is. So with that being said, the Buffalo Bills, you got your work cut out for you. Have fun with those 2 teams. Mind you, they're in your division. That's the sad part. So y'all beat everybody else. Just can't beat the teams in your division. Gotta be able to beat them. Moving on to the next AFC East team. I'm sorry, the AFC West now. So we're gonna move on to the AFC West. Now I want people to understand something. The Kansas City Chiefs. Don't you just love KC? Now Patrick Mahomes, is gonna have his work cut out for him because the Buffalo Bills and the Colts are the 2 teams that they just can't seem to beat. Now that's actually obvious because unfortunately I've actually seen this. We saw this earlier this year. Patrick Mahomes, when he saw Kansas City, right? Kansas City won that game 20-13. Okay, they beat the Colts had beat the Chiefs. The Chiefs had the Colts had ran the crap out of that clock. It is what it is. They're 9-13 versus the Colts all time, but they're 1-4 in the playoffs against the Colts. So that tells me if they see Indianapolis, they're usually going to lose. Okay, and it's the same thing with the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills, they're 20-24 versus when Kansas City sees them, they're 20-24-1. 1-2 in the playoffs against the Buffalo Bills. So if history repeats itself, the Bills are supposed to beat the Chiefs, right? So, with that being said, because the Bills are gonna have to see the Chiefs, right? They have to see the Chiefs. Eventually. But they're not going to see them now because, unfortunately, the Patriots screwed up. So now the Chiefs got a first round bye. So here's the thing, right? If New England wins, and let's say Buffalo wins, okay, the lowest remaining seed will have to go see Baltimore, which means the Bills would have to go see Baltimore, and probably 9 times out of 10 they'll probably lose that. But if they don't lose that, then they'll have to go see the winner between Kansas City and New England. Now, if Kansas City wins, then that means that the Buffalo Bills are probably going to go to the Super Bowl because I'm pretty sure that they'll beat them. But if New England wins, then New England will go back to the Super Bowl. But that's neither here nor there. So those are your 2 Kryptonite teams. Now, you want to know the record? Like I said, 1-2 in playoffs. Can't beat that. I'm sorry. Chiefs, got your work cut out for you. Let's move on to that next squad. So the next team, the Denver Broncos. Now, one of my close friends, great friend of the show, my boy Mr. Emmanuel, Jabbar Emmanuel. Is a great brother, always watches my show, and a couple of other friends of mine, and my man, Marcus Morel is not gonna like this. I'm just gonna tell him straight up. Look, unfortunately, homie, the truth is, okay. The truth is, the 2 Kryptonite teams for the Broncos happens to be the Tennessee Titans and the Indianapolis Colts. Now, I want people to understand something, okay? The thing about the Denver Broncos, against the Titans, 16-22-1, but they're 2-1 against them in the playoffs. So they do beat them when it counts, but in the regular season, don't even bother. And when they see the Colts, they're 14-11. But the reason why I chose these 2 teams, because for some odd reason, when the Broncos see the Colts in the playoffs, they are 0-3. 0-3. They have yet to beat the Colts in the playoffs. And if they happen to see, and let's just be real, if the Colts happen to have seen the Broncos in the playoffs, we don't know how. Excuse me. how that's going to look. But again, that's neither here nor there. So those are your two Kryptonite teams for the Broncos. I mean, the Broncos are going to have their work cut out for them, okay? Now, let's move on to that next squad. The Raiders. Unfortunately, so I want people to understand why the Oakland Raiders only got one Kryptonite team. That's just because the Raiders actually have a pretty decent winning percentage over most of the teams in the NFL. So they're actually, oddly enough, even though as terrible as they are for the past few years, they've actually got a pretty decent winning percentage over a few teams, with the exception of the Kansas City Chiefs. 52-65, okay? They've only beaten them 52 times, but they lost to them 65 times. So that's a whole 13 games stretch, okay? Which kind of stinks, because that means that for the next, looks like it's going to have to be the next 6 seasons, the next 6 to 7, or is it 6 or 6.5 seasons, they're going to have to win and sweep the Chiefs in order to catch up to them in that column. But unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen, because I'm looking at that team now. I don't see them beating the Chiefs anytime soon. Plus, they're 1-2 against the Chiefs in the playoffs. It is what it is. It is what it is. So that's their Kryptonite team, you know. So it is what it is. I mean, I don't argue with these facts, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just laying it out for you. Okay? And the great thing is like I always said, because, I mean, look at the team. Look at the two quarterbacks for this team. You got Derek Carr and you got Patrick Mahomes. Both quarterbacks throwing for over 4,000 yards. Okay, a little over 20-plus touchdowns each. But but the Raiders got basically a rookie squad. So, you know, it's one of those situations that you got to say to yourself, why is it that the Oakland Raiders have a hard time beating the Chiefs? But hey, who am I? I'm just a guy analyzing the situation. And as of right now, I mean, John Gruden, we don't know what he's going to do. We don't know what he's going to do with this team. We don't know how he's going to react with this team. Is this a situation of, you know, what do you do? You know, do you do your thing and try to, you know, pick up some guys in the free agency? You know, do you do those things? But the truth is, man, look, these are the facts. And the facts are, can nobody beat these teams? Is it beat the Chiefs as of right now? Because it seems like the Raiders just can't seem to beat them or shake them. It is what it is. So, last team in the AFC West. The LA Chargers. I want people to understand something about the LA Chargers. There you go. Now, I want people to understand something, okay? The reason why I had to choose Pittsburgh for this, because here's what's sad. I want people to understand this record. They're 8-23 versus Pittsburgh. 2-1 in the playoffs over them, so they do beat them when it counts. But 8-23, first, that means you're only beating them on basically just under 1/3 of the time during the regular season. And the Raiders, well, you're 54-64, so they got a whole 10-game stretch ahead of you. Plus, on top of that, you're 0-1 against them in the playoffs, which is not good, because that's a division game. And the fact that they got a 10-game stretch ahead of you, that's not good. Not good at all. Not to mention, you got Phillip Rivers, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Travis Benjamin. You got a decent defense. You got Melvin Gordon. You got Joey Bosa. You got Melvin Ingram. You got Derwin James. You got all these good corners. You have the defense to get it done, but you're not getting it done. And for any of you Chargers fans out here, that's fine if you want to comment and share. And then, but I want people to understand something. Truth is, it's rough. It's a bit rough. And I want people to understand how serious this is. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick commercial break. When I come back, we're going to I'm sorry. Actually, we're not going to take a quick commercial break. Excuse me. We're going to go on to the AFC North, at least I believe. Let's move on. So we're going to move on to the AFC North. Let's look at them Baltimore Ravens. How about them Ravens? Can't stand the Ravens, though. Love you, Ravens fans. So, Baltimore. Your Kryptonite teams are New England and Pittsburgh. I'm going to tell you why these are your Kryptonite teams. Is it Pittsburgh 23 and 25? Okay. Can't seem to shake. Can't seem to shake them. Okay. And then New England, you're 2 and 8 in the against New England. You can't seem to beat New England, but you only beat them when it counts. And you split with them when it counts. 2 and 2 in the playoffs. Okay. So if history is going to repeat itself, if you happen to see New England, I don't think this is going to end well for Baltimore, because all these Baltimore fans are so hot and believing that Lamar Jackson is going to take it to the Super Bowl. We are unsure of that, because unfortunately, they lucky that Pittsburgh ain't in it. As New England right now, they looking like they struggling a bit, but once they hit their stride, it's going to be a real problem for the Baltimore Ravens. They ain't going to be able to stop that. But hey, who am I? I'm just a guy analyzing the situation. Just saying. So those are your 2 Kryptonite teams for the Baltimore Ravens, okay? Let's move on. The Cincinnati Bengals. Now, it's going to be the Oakland Raiders and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, that's obvious because, unfortunately, Pittsburgh all-time versus the Bengals, 35 and 64. You got a whole 29-game lead on the Cincinnati Bengals, 0-2 in the playoffs against Pittsburgh. That's very obvious because the 2 times we saw them in the playoffs, that was when Marvin Lewis was head coach. In one of those games, Vontaze Burfict screwed it up for the Bengals. And almost could have, and the Bengals could have won that game, but unfortunately, that just didn't happen. It is what it is. I don't argue with these facts. I just I just tell people, you know, you got many things to worry about, but it is what it is. So, what I just tell people is this: you can look at the facts. The facts are, okay. Facts are, you can't sit here and say that the Bengals are not a bad football team, but they could have definitely, done better. They could have definitely done a situation where, things could have been a little bit easier. But they just can't seem to beat either one of these teams. So there's that. Let's move on. So Pittsburgh, now this is where it's going to get funny. Your Kryptonite teams are New England and Denver. Here's why. Denver, you're 8-15-1. Okay, so you've only won 8 games against Denver. And then, of course, when you lost 15 games, you tied with them 1 time. But you're 3-5 in the playoffs against the Denver Broncos. The Patriots, on the other hand, you have a bit of a winning percentage, okay? 15-13 versus them in the regular season. But obviously, in recent years, the Patriots have owned the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the problem is, you are 1-4 against New England in the playoffs. And this is all time. I want people to understand. That means that Pittsburgh doesn't seem to like to win against New England in the playoffs. I mean, these are the facts, ladies and gentlemen. I don't argue with the facts. And obviously, under Mike Tomlin, they've had a very, very difficult time beating New England. It's very, very obvious. It is what it is. So, with that being said, I don't know what everybody wants me to do. Okay? And let's look at that very last team in the AFC North. Gotta love these Cleveland Browns, right? Obviously, Cleveland, I don't know what you guys are going to do. Baltimore got you guys 11-31, and this is just bad. And obviously, you've never seen them in the playoffs because you haven't made the playoffs since Baltimore has been in the NFL. So it is what it is, and I mean, there's nothing anybody can do about it, But they're 11-31, and then the Broncos, you're 6-21, and you're 0-3 against them in the playoffs. So pretty much, if you see Denver on your schedule, Cleveland, and you're probably not going to beat them. You're probably not going to beat them. There's just certain teams you're just not going to beat, and that's just one of them. And then we ain't going to talk about Baltimore, because Baltimore just seems to keep smacking y'all every chance they get. But hey, you had a good win earlier this year, but then second time they saw you, drama. So it is what it is. We're going to end the AFC now with the AFC South. So let's move on to the AFC South. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Tennessee Titans, your Kryptonite teams are the Raiders and Pittsburgh. Now, I know Mr. Emmanuel, he's probably going to look at me like I'm crazy, but I'm going to tell you why. The Oakland Raiders are 21-26 over the Tennessee Titans. But they are 0-4 in the playoffs, so they have never beaten the Raiders in the playoffs at all. And against Pittsburgh, 31-43, so they got a whole 12-game stretch over Pittsburgh Steelers. But they are 1-3 against Pittsburgh in the playoffs, so they have a hard time beating these two teams. And it's very, very obvious. It is just sad, but it is what it is. There's nothing anybody can do about it. Again, I don't make up these stats, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just giving you the stats. Which is why I'm just going to say this once and once only. The Titans, you're going to have your hands full this as a later on today. Because you're playing against an elite team in the New England Patriots, although they're having some trouble. But we'll see. But they got it, the Raiders or the Steelers, because I would have most certainly bet on that game. Most certainly. But hey, that's that. Let's move on to the next squad in the AFC South. So, the Houston Texans. Your Kryptonite teams are the Patriots and the Baltimore Ravens. And the reason why, because you have the lowest winning percentage against both of these teams in the playoffs and regular season. You're 2-8 against New England, 0-2 in the playoffs. Obviously, you got your second win off of New England in the regular season from this season, but you just can't seem to beat them in the playoffs. It is what it is. And then as far as the Baltimore Ravens, well, again 2-8 in the regular season, 0-1 against them in the playoffs because you only saw them once, and unfortunately, you got destroyed. It is what it is. Nothing anybody can do about it. The Texans are just having a rough time beating these teams, okay? So, but we will see what happens with Deshaun Watson at the helm. We'll see what happens. Let's move on. So, the Jacksonville Jaguars, I have to bring this up. Now, a lot of people are going to look at me like I'm nuts for this one. 21-29 underneath the Titans, so the Titans tend to beat them more often than not, and they're 0-1 against them in the playoffs. The Patriots, of course, I had to bring this up, and the reason why this is they're 1-7 versus New England, and they're 1-4 against them in the playoffs, so they can't beat them when it counts. So since they can't beat them when it counts, like I always tell people, see, Delaney Walker said it best. They are who we thought they were. You still got to play football. You got to play football because obviously you having a tough time with your division and outside of your division. Still got to play football. That's why when Jalen Ramsey guaranteed they were going to go to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, I was like, Jalen, you still got to play football. And look at what happened now. You got shipped off to the Rams. And now you're not making the playoffs again. I mean, you might have had a better chance, but you still got to play football. So, there's that. So, having said that, moving on to the last team in the AFC South. The Indianapolis Colts. Your Kryptonite teams are definitely New England and the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's very obvious. And let's be real, Colts fans. Y'all know why New England, y'all Kryptonite team. You're 28-48. The Patriots got you by 20 games. That's ridiculous. That's the most games. That's the second most games out of any team in the NFL all time. That's just ridiculous, okay? You're 1-4 against them in the playoffs, and the one time you did beat them was the year that you went to the Super Bowl back in 2006, and I remember that because that was a bogus call against Asante Samuel, but that's neither here nor there. And then next thing you know, Peyton Manning ends up winning that game 38-34 to go on to beat the Bears in the Super Bowl 20-6 in the Super Bowl. I'm sorry, 27 in the Super Bowl. It is what it is. And then the New England Pittsburgh, well, we all know why. You're 6-19 against Pittsburgh, and you're 0-5 against them in the playoffs. Y'all can't seem to beat Pittsburgh when the playoffs come around, so that's very sad. So if I'm a Colts fan, I would be heated about that because it's like, why can't we beat Pittsburgh? Mind you, you've had a good team for years. I remember those Peyton Manning days. I just never understood why y'all couldn't beat Pittsburgh, because for some odd reason the Patriots have no problem beating Pittsburgh. But clearly the Colts did. But hey, who am I? I guess I'm the guy just analyzing the situation. I'm going to take a quick commercial break, folks. When I come back, we're going to talk about the NFC. So don't go anywhere on No BS Show.
What's up, everybody? I'm here at Bowie State University, representing for WBGR. We're here to see if some of these college students know their breakfast trivia. Do you know your cereal? So I'm here in the student center with a couple of students. How y'all feeling? Good. So I want to test y'all knowledge on breakfast trivia. Y'all ready? Yeah. All right, so the first one is finish the slogan. I'm cuckoo for
Cocoa Puffs.
All right, silly rabbit.
Tricks of the kids.
2 scoops of. 2 scoops of. Comes in a purple box, sunshine on it.
Oh, Raisin Bread.
They're magically delicious.
Wait,
Lucky Charms.
Lucky Charms.
All right. Snap, crackle, pop.
Rice Krispies.
Yep. Kid tested, mother approved.
Oh, I don't know. Not a mom.
Whose mascot is a tiger?
Flakes. No.
Yeah, Tony. What you saying?
Mascot is a toucan bird.
Toucan.
Whose mascot is Fred Flintstone?
Fruity Pebbles.
The taste you can see.
Taste you can see.
No one sounds familiar.
The taste you can see.
The taste you can see.
Oh, that's what is that?
Oh, you phoning a friend? Here you got a phone. Which one of these cartoons was not made into a cereal? You got 3 choices. A, Donkey Kong. B, Pokemon. C, SpongeBob. SpongeBob. Trick question, they all were. Oh wow.
What?
I never seen no SpongeBob cereal. Kid tested, mother approved.
Checks. No. Kicks.
Yup, you got it. Some of these college students definitely know their trivia. It was fun interviewing them to see what their knowledge was. Hopefully next time we can get a couple of more students at some other schools and test their knowledge. Do you know your cereals?
And I'm back, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about the NFC now. So we're going to just end this. So we're going to go straight through. We're going to end this with the NFC. So let's take a look at the NFC. First is the first division. Okay? NFC East. Let's talk about the NFC East, because I know a lot of you Skins fans are going to be looking for me to talk about that, but we're going to talk about the Giants first. The Giants can't seem to beat the Packers or the Bears. Now, I don't know why that is, but I'm explaining the stats for that. The Giants can't beat the Packers because they're 23-29 versus the Packers. They're 3-5 in the playoffs against them. It's the same thing with the Chicago Bears. They're 21-29 versus them. 3-5 versus 3-5 in the playoffs against the Bears. So pretty much, if you're a Giants fan, don't see the NFC North. Just don't. Just don't see the NFC North. It seems like y'all can't beat them. Now I get why those two teams, because those teams are some cold, really cold weather teams, especially the Bears and the Packers, because that's a frozen tundra. I ain't messing with that. That frozen tundra ain't nothing to play with. So there's that. So I understand. So for the New York Football Giants, you got 4 rings, but that's But that's because again, you got a couple of rings back in the day, and then of course you got the 1 ring, the 2 rings off of the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. Obvious. But that's neither here nor there. So Giants fans, don't see those two because you can't beat them. Moving on, next team. How about them Eagles? Them Eagles, I don't even know what to say about Philly. Look, Eagles fans, I know y'all gonna get mad at me because I know Philly fans, they seem to really get mad at me when I talk about the Eagles. So I'm gonna just explain why, okay? The Eagles problem is they can't seem to shake the Bears and they can't seem to shake the Cowboys. Eagles fans, you are 13-29-1 against the Chicago Bears. That is terrible against. That's a very, very, not only it's a very low winning percentage, but you just can't seem to beat Chicago. And then on top of that, you are 3-1 against them in the playoffs, so you can't beat. So in the regular season, if your regular season is predicated on beating that team, you might not want to bet on that game. But if you have a good regular season and you have to see them in the playoffs, you have to see them in the playoffs, there's the problem. The problem is you might have a better chance. So again, 3-1 against them in the playoffs. And then for the Cowboys, you're 52-66, right? 1-3 in the playoffs against them, right? You're 1-3 in the playoffs against them. So obviously that's a division game, but again, that was obvious this season, because the truth is the first time you saw the Cowboys earlier this year, because they were an accident waiting to happen, they straight up dog trashed you. Okay? They straight up dog trashed you, and it is what it is. There's nothing anybody could do about that. You straight up got dog trashed. And now you beat them the second time you saw them, and you smacked them the second time, and then now you're the division leader this year. So you won the division, you got yourself a home game, you got yourself a wild card. Okay, at least you got yourself a home game. Congrats to the Eagles for that. But just wasn't looking good, so there's that. So let's move on from the Eagles, because we know who their Kryptonite teams are. So, moving on. So, skins. The Washington Redskins are against the Giants and the Cowboys. Now, this is where it's going to get funny. The Giants, you were 68, 102, and 4, and you're 1-1 in the playoffs against the New York Giants. That's just crazy to me. That's just crazy. 68, 102, and 4. So you got a whole 34 game losing stretch against the Giants. I don't know why. I've been trying to figure out why. But for some odd reason, the Giants just keep smacking y'all. But I mean, again, there's nothing anybody could do about that, right? But you did split with them in the playoffs, so maybe you have a better shot at beating them in the playoffs. But the Cowboys, you're 43-73 now. And then, of course, but when it counts, you're 2-0 against the Cowboys in the playoffs. So you do have something going for you, but just not regular season. Just not regular season. I don't know what's been going on with the Redskins. I mean, we clearly saw the debacle that happened with the Skins this past year. It is what it is. But you did hire Ron Rivera, though. And they brought in Jack Del Rio as defensive coordinator. So there's that. So you got some guys here. So you got something to look forward to. Just not looking forward to those wins, though. So it is what it is. Let's move on. How about them Cowboys? Them Cowboys have a tough time with two teams in the league. And I want people to understand this. The Dallas Cowboys, they can't seem to shake San Francisco. 13-15 regular season, but they won 5 games against them in the playoffs and only lost 2. And that was obviously because of the fact that they had that big rivalry between Jerry Rice and the great Deion Sanders, obviously. But when it comes to the Packers, 13-16 against the Packers, 4-4 in the playoffs. And we've seen those Cowboys games where they had to play the Packers, especially that Tony Romo game when we all knew that was a catch. That was definitely a catch, according to today's standards. But unfortunately, it wasn't considered a catch at that time. So, and it took my man Dez out the game. Wasn't fair, but that's life. Then, of course, under Dak Prescott, they already as an 0-1 under Dak Prescott versus the Packers because they lost that game 34-31 in the playoffs. So, and the sad part is, and I'm thinking about it like, dang, they actually would have had a higher winning percentage against the Packers had they not lost those two playoff games. But nope, obviously not. You split with them, so hey, there's neither here nor there. Sorry, Cowboys fans. It is what it is. All right, let's move on to NFC West. Let's look at the very first team in the NFC West. Cowboys are their kryptonite team. For some strange reason. 15, 13, and 1. But that's only because, like I said, the Cowboys. Now, the reason why these two teams are each other's kryptonite team is because, unfortunately, in the regular season, the Niners beat the Cowboys. But when it counts, the Cowboys beat the Niners because the Niners are 2-5 against the Dallas Cowboys. But the other team that a lot of people didn't know this about, the Niners can't seem to shake the New York Giants. And we all saw that a couple of years ago. When the Giants went to the Super Bowl 8 years ago, and then next thing you know, they're 16 and 17 underneath the Giants. Okay, but they're 4-4 in the playoffs against them. Again, neither here nor there, but there's nothing that the Niners could do about that, except if they see the Giants again, they got to make sure they beat them. Period. Giants just for some odd reason got their number. Just got their number. So if you're a Niners fan, I would hate to see the Giants, and I would hate to see the Cowboys. Pretty much a lot of teams in the NFC East, pretty much. So, there's that. Let's move on. So, the Seattle Seahawks. Now, the reason why you're seeing two AFC teams, you also have to remember Seattle did see these teams a lot during their AFC days when the Seattle Seahawks were in the AFC, because the Seattle Seahawks was in the AFC West at one point before they had 32 teams, and then they moved to the NFC West. But the Denver Broncos, they're 19-35 underneath the Broncos because the Broncos just keep smacking them left and right. But Seattle beat them when it counted. Okay? The reason why that is because the Seattle Seahawks beat them in the playoff games in the past when they was in the AFC, and then they beat them in the Super Bowl, obviously when Peyton Manning went to the Super Bowl, and they lost that game 43-8. And the Kansas City Chiefs, they're 19-33, but again, that's because of the fact that they're 19-33 because again, they were part of the AFC West before they went to the NFC West. So I want people to understand that this is all time. But when they did see Kansas City recently, it didn't end well for Seattle. Neither here nor there. So, moving on. The Arizona Cardinals. Well, we already know why the Chicago Bears keep beating them, because in the words of the late Dennis Green, they are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook. The Bears, 28-59. The Bears beat this team 59 times, and they only lost to and the Cardinals only beat the Bears 28 times all time. Okay, and if they see the Cowboys, well, they pretty much get their butts whooped because it's 31-56, and of course, obviously, they've never seen them in the playoffs because the Cardinals just can't seem to beat a lot of teams in the NFL. Mind you, they've been in the NFL longer than most teams. But at least they saw the Super Bowl, I guess. But again, that's neither here nor there. So, moving on. The LA Rams. The Redskins and the Vikings seem to be their kryptonite team. Now, I want people to understand something. I know everybody's going to look at me like I'm crazy. Let me explain why. The Washington Redskins own the LA Rams. They are 11-24. The Skins, for some strange reason, when they see the LA Rams, they typically beat them. And on top of that, they're 2-2 against the Redskins in the playoffs. And the Minnesota Vikings are 15-22, so they are well under 500 ball. And they're 2-5 against them in the playoffs. Not good for the LA Rams. But again, that's neither here nor there. So, I mean, even with the squad they got now, let's look at the facts. If the LA Rams was to see Minnesota, it ain't gonna end well. They'll probably beat the Skins right now because the Skins are trash. But all time, Skins own the LA Rams. So if I'm the LA Rams, I wouldn't want to see this team in the playoffs if the Redskins are a good football team. Because if they're a good football team at the time that they see them, it ain't going to be good for the LA Rams. But that's neither here nor there. So, let's move forward. And that's the end of the NFC West. We're going to go on to the NFC North. Minnesota can't seem to beat Philadelphia and the Niners. The reason why that is, they have a pretty decent winning percentage versus these teams, but, okay, the Philadelphia Eagles, 15-10. They got them by 5 games, but they have yet to beat the Eagles in the playoffs, and that's obvious because obviously from a couple of years ago when they went to the Super Bowl against to go play New England, they dog smacked the Vikings 38-7. I mean, that's just sad. I mean, Minnesota, y'all got to get it together because if if you can't beat the Eagles, y'all don't know what y'all gonna do. And the San Francisco 49ers, well, 22-19-1, but they're 1-4 in the playoffs against the San Francisco 49ers, and it is what it is. You gotta beat. If you can't beat a team when it counts, you gotta beat the teams when it counts. So let's move forward. Them Packers. The only team. Now, this is what's crazy. The Packers have a decent winning percentage over most teams. But there's one team that, for some strange reason, if they see them in the playoffs, it usually never ends well. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. They are 1-2 against the Eagles in the playoffs. The Eagles are 27. Now, they've beaten the Eagles 27 times in the regular season, only lost to them 15 times in the regular season. But they just can't seem to shake them in the playoffs. I just don't know why, but it is what it is. But hey, again, that's neither here nor there. Let's move on. The Detroit Lions. They can't seem to shake the Packers or the Skins. Now I'm explaining why. They're 72-107, 0-2 in the playoffs against the Packers. Now obviously we remember that. So, and the Redskins 14-28. But they are 0-3 versus the Redskins in the playoffs. So half the time you're losing to the Skins. And then all of the time you can't beat the Skins in the playoffs. So for Detroit, y'all need to figure this out. So that's your Kryptonite teams. So historically, y'all just can't beat them. I'm sorry. But it is what it is. Let's move forward. And the Chicago Bears, I mean, I know Skins fans are going to love this. I mean, we all know this. I hate to say this. The Chicago Bears against the Packers, 94-98, 1-1 in the playoffs. And the Redskins, 21-22, 3-4 in the playoffs against the Chicago Bears. But this was kind of obvious because the many times I've actually seen the Skins play the Chicago Bears, I've seen the Chicago Bears have a good season, and then for some strange reason they'll lose to the Skins. I don't know why that is, but it just happens. But the stats are the stats. I don't argue with that. Especially, I'll never forget the game when Jay Cutler, it was having a pretty decent year. They were 11-5 that year, and they were going to go see the Packers. But I remember one of those 5 losses came from the fact that Jay Cutler thought it was okay to throw 4 picks to D'Angelo Hall because he thought he was Devin Hester. But again, that's neither here nor there because they both wore 23. He just kept throwing to the other 23. And D'Angelo Hall had 4 interceptions in that game. And he finished that year with 6 picks. That told me everything I needed to know. So, 4 of them came from one game. So, it is what it is. Let's move on to the NFC South. Gotta love the NFC South. So, the NFC South is really gonna get interesting, right? Tampa Bay, their Kryptonite team is the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints, all time, okay, 21-35. Now the Buccaneers, they've been losing a lot of games over the years, okay, and the problem with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is they only got 1 Super Bowl win, but they, between them and New Orleans, those are the only 2 teams that have got rings in that division. Everybody else does not have a ring. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right now, and I've been saying this for the longest, I don't know. I mean, I could see why this would be the Kryptonite team because it's New Orleans. They got a prolific offense. I mean, we all saw it. I mean, it's just what it is. And so what I say to individuals is this: if you're a Saints fan and you see Tampa Bay on your schedule, just check it off. You already know you're gonna beat them. you already know you're going to beat them. So, there's nothing anybody can do about it. I want people to understand that. And I know a lot of people are not too happy about it. But again, what can you do? But let's also look at the next NFC South team. So the next squad, you got to love the Saints. New Orleans, your Kryptonite teams are the Atlanta Falcons and the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to explain why, because I know a lot of people are going to talk smack about the Saints. You're 1-3 in the playoffs versus the Vikings, and 11-19 versus the Vikings as well in the 11-19 versus the Vikings in in the regular season. But the Atlanta Falcons 49-52, and you're 0-1 against them in the playoffs. Now, here's what's really crazy about that. The crazy thing is that's one of the biggest rivalries down there in the South, because the Falcons and the Saints can't stand each other. That's usually the game where they got to bring a couple of extra state troopers for, because unfortunately, it just doesn't end well. It just doesn't end well. So, now, 0-1 against the Falcons in the playoffs. I mean, again, neither here nor there. But I will say this. Saints, you got your work cut out for you, because you're down by 3 games. So what you're going to have to do, you're going to have to sweep them in the next season. And then there's a comeback in a year, and then sweep them the next season in order to get, above that winning percentage. So that way you can own the Falcons in the regular season. And then hopefully you can beat them in a playoff game. So, let's move on. The Carolina Panthers, your Kryptonite teams are the Falcons and the Seattle Seahawks. Now, I know people are going to call me crazy for that one, but there's a reason why. So, the Falcons, they're 18-32. They cannot beat the Falcons for some strange reason. And then the Seattle Seahawks, they're 3-8, 1-2 in the playoffs against Seattle. Now, I'm not too surprised by that, because it seems like ever since Russell Wilson came into the NFL, the Panthers can't seem to shake them. They can't seem to shake the Panthers can't seem to shake Seattle, and that's why I'm like, the Panthers better think they're lucky stars. They're not seeing Seattle this year. But Cam Newton was hurt, and it seems like they want to push him out the door and send him off. So, they got rid of Ron Rivera. I thought that was disrespectful, but you know what? It is what it is. The Panthers, they do what they do. It is what it is. Nothing anybody can do about it. So, let's look at the next NFC South team. The Falcons. Gotta love them Falcons, okay? The Falcons. Gotta love the Atlanta Falcons. Your teams that your Kryptonites to is the San Francisco 49ers, and it's going to be the Detroit Lions, okay? You're 31-46 again against the 49ers. So you lost 46 games. That's a whole 15-game lead. And the Detroit Lions, I don't know why y'all keep losing to the Lions. I'm trying to figure that out, because that team is just not good at all. But I guess, y'all keep losing to them. Okay? You keep losing to them. It is what it is. Nothing anybody can do about it. But those are your Kryptonite teams. You got to figure out how to beat these two teams, because they got a whole, at least bare minimum 10-game stretch ahead of you. But hey, who am I? I'm just the guy that's analyzing the situation. And with Dan Quinn coming back as head coach, we're gonna have to see what this team can do within the next season. And then, of course, when you see your opponents on your schedule next year, you could then say to yourself, like, can my team beat this squad? Okay? Can my team beat this squad? And then why I also want people to understand, like, the reason why I did this edition, because this was something different. This was something new. This was something, What's up, Mike? Thank you, Mike Curry. Thank you, Miss. My godmother. Happy New Year to you, my godmother, Miss Rhonda White. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to the show. But and so this is why I did this segment, because I wanted people to understand that, like, historically, if you keep wondering why your teams keep losing, it's been going on all time. So now you have a better understanding of why it is. Now, everybody could just say it's just football, but then people also got to understand, like, Well, historically, your team keeps losing to them. I mean, I never would have thought, Kansas City would struggle with the Buffalo Bills and the Colts. Like, those were the last two teams I would have thought that Kansas City would struggle with, but they struggle against them. That's just what it is. In New England, well, I mean, I'm not too surprised by those stats because of the fact that, the Dolphins just got the Patriots number. They just do. They got the Patriots number, and it's just what it is. They're 51-55. You can't beat that. The Broncos are 22-26, 1-4 in the playoffs against New England. Okay, the Broncos just have the Patriots number. This is what it is. And for the Colts, well, obviously they can't beat the Pats and they can't beat the Steelers. Historically, and those are some interesting stats there, and those are just things that you just got to think about to yourself, like, what is it that team is doing that is stopping my team from going further? But the truth is some teams just have your number, regardless of the personnel. They just have your number. They just do. They just do. Look what they do. They just win. Just win, baby, win. In the late Al Davis. Okay? So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the show today. So, I want everybody to go to the No BS page. Let's go ahead and go to the end. Because I'm pretty sure we have nobody else. I want everybody to join the No BS, No Holds Barred Sports Talk Show viewer group. I want everybody to go to that, look at past shows. Look at today's special edition. And, of course, if you guys have any questions, hit me up in the comments. I'm going to be putting out some articles soon. I want to thank all the people that's been watching this live. I really appreciate your support. So go to the No BS, No Holds Barred Sports Talk Show viewer group. Look at past shows. Comment, share with your friends. Let me know. Share in your groups. I want to hear your feedback, okay? Let's move on. Now I want you guys to go to the YouTube page. Look at past shows. I'm going to have some shows. I've already had some new shows uploaded. Go ahead and look at past shows, and I want people to comment. Let me know. Send me an email. Want to hear from you, okay? Then I want you to follow. Let's go to the blog. Go to the No BS, No Holds Barred Sports Talk.blogspot.com. I want you guys to look at that. Look at the blog page. Look at past articles, stuff like that. It's a new year. 2020 is in. Okay? I want you to follow my social media. Insane_Shane29, Underground SP29, Shiz_29, No BS, No Holds Barred. For that Instagram, Underground Sports LLC.blogspot.com. And then follow me on Facebook at Shane Hector. Okay? Follow me there because I want, again, comment, share, like, follow me. Okay? I want you guys to know that. And then, if you want to advertise with the show, okay, or the network, go to Underground Sports LLC at gmail.com. Email me there. I got you. We'll take. We can discuss it. Okay. And so what I want people to understand is like this was a very exciting edition that I was very excited to do, and it was a lot of fun. And I want people to understand like these are some very interesting stats that a lot of people didn't even realize. Because even when I was going over it, I was sitting there like this is a lot of history. So and so with that being said. Like I said, comment, let me know what you guys think. And I want people to understand that, it was great talking to you guys about today's show. And so, let's end it. Let's go to the end. Happy New Year from the No BS team. Happy New Year's to my crew in the back. Mr. Williams. And the homie Shayna in the back. I thank you both for running the show today. I love both of you guys. Happy New Year to you both. And Happy New Year to my team, my mom. I want to thank you for putting all of this together, for being part of the No BS team. Everybody who's watching the show currently right now, and everybody who was paying attention, listening for the stats. And then, of course, if you guys have any questions, just give me a shout. I will most certainly respond to you. But Happy New Year to everyone. 2020 is in. This is the first show of the new year. Love you guys. No BS is out of the building. Peace.